All right. Welcome, everybody. My name is Justin. I'm recording this podcast, Automate Office Work. I've got a guest today, Jonathan Williams from
Woo, yay.
from a legal tech company. I'm not sure how you pronounce. Is it just Leya or is it
Leia.
Leya.ai?
Just Leia. So we're just called Leia.
Leya, spelled Leya.
That's the one. Leia.law, if you're looking us
Oh,
up.
Leya.law. Amazing. All right. So yeah, everybody. Jonathan and I are both kind of ex-lawyers. We were practicing. We were working in corporations, and then we pivoted to this crazy thing of legal technology recently.
Recovering lawyers.
Recovery lawyers.
Litigators Anonymous. It's like, hi, my name's Jonathan. I haven't sued anybody in 6 weeks. Oh, well, hello.
I love it. Yeah. So yeah, we connected on LinkedIn before your move to Leia. I
Exactly, yeah.
noticed. I noticed you and I had some like common interests with process around legal
Yep,
technology, and then
absolutely.
yeah, I asked if you would come on the podcast and have a conversation with me. You graciously agreed, but then you changed to Leia, which I think is an
Yeah,
amazing company. So we can talk about that as well. Yeah, I guess tell us a little bit about yourself, Jonathan.
awesome. Well, with pleasure. So, Jonathan, as my accent might indicate, I'm British. Um, I grew up in a small city in England. I moved across I started my career prosecuting. I moved across to France, not by mistake. It was a very deliberate move, but it happened by mistake. So I went to France in the autumn of '09 for there's an exchange between the Paris bar and the London bar. And I came here for 4 weeks and never left. And now I have I think they call them anchor babies. I have children here. Disgracefully for a British person, I've added to the numbers of the French, much to my chagrin. Uh, and so I'm stuck here. I'm stuck here forever. But there are worse places to be stuck than Paris, as they say.
Is your
Uh,
wife British as well, or is she French?
no, 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 Frenchies. That was why the move to France was so deliberate. That
Ah,
was it was not for that particular French wife. I had a different French wife at the time. This is the second French wife. So there's definitely a type, there's definitely a sort, there's definitely a motivation to my to my move. So
uh,
I was a prosecutor, and then I was a litigator, international arbitration as well, and then I kind of slid towards technology about 10 years ago. The last 5 years I was at Calam, where I was sort of helping in-house legal teams and corporates do CLM projects, entity management projects, basically anything that involved tech in an in-house legal team. I spent most of my time, banging my head against a brick wall, so to speak, with some with some people, but with others, some fantastically innovative things, and very fortunate to have seen some pretty crazy stuff. Um, the problem for me was that when I saw Leia last summer, so Leia was going to be a point solution for one of Calam's clients, and we needed something to do a particular thing. And I went out to find this particular thing. I found Leia, and 6 weeks later, I was on a plane to Stockholm, and I'd left Calam. The problem for me was that Calam is founded and run by my wife. I'm effectively
ah.
Mr. Calam, so I had to leave my wife professionally, and and to jump ship. So I've had to move across in a delicate way.
Oh, nice. Very nice. I love your story. I feel connected to you as well. I'm originally American, and I've lived in the Netherlands. My wife is Russian, so we both have this like
From
experience
everywhere.
with falling in love with foreign women.
It happens to the best of us.
Very nice. I've been really impressed with what I've seen from Leia. I've also been talking with people here in Amsterdam that work for them. What I noticed about Leia is it's like they only chose like three things that they do, and they do them very well.
Yeah, there's a very particular atmosphere. You're right. There's like a an obsession, and obviously I don't speak on behalf of my employer. I'm a very long way from sufficiently senior to be speaking on behalf of my employer. Um, but I am head of France, I suppose. I think the the reason that I joined there was the culture and the attitude. It was just streets ahead of stuff that I'd seen in other companies. You spend enough time in this space and you spend enough time working with all these customers and helping them choose things and so on. People figure out pretty quickly that you might be a useful person to have in their team, sort of influence the decision and try and, get some more business. And so I'd had a number of offers over the years of like, would you be interested in doing this with us and so on and so forth. And there was nothing that really, until I met the team at Leya, there was nothing that really came close to being sufficiently dynamic to get me away from Cat. But yeah, the attitude is very much like we'll do this, we'll do it to the best of our ability, and we're going to smash it out of the park. And it's really exciting to see. It's really exciting to try and keep pace.
From what I've seen, it's kind of the difference between a big player, say like Microsoft, where they want to be all things to everybody, and if there's any competitor that is coming in to do something differently, they immediately pivot and they create a product to do that as well. But it's not a very good product. It's just like to say that at least we've got it covered so that they don't come in. And then the other flip side of that is to be a very nimble solution, say like a WhatsApp, that it just does one thing and it does it perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a tendency to try and do, and I'm the first victim. I'm the first one to fall into this trap. I try and extend the product all the time. I'm like, oh, it'd be really cool if we could do this, if we could do that, if we could. And I've got these what I think are bright ideas from my time in the legal tech industry and working with people. But I think the actual drive is to, like you say, we've got a 6-inch wide trench a mile deep. And that's all the money's falling into that trench. So I mustn't do anything that might potentially affect the water tightness of this trench. And fortunately, we have a great product team, great engineering team to keep me in check and keep my bright ideas under control. But yeah, it's a really focused effort. But it is, yeah. I mean, we're like a major Microsoft partner. Microsoft produced a number of videos with us. They co-branded marketing things. We use obviously a huge amount of Azure servers, so we're very deeply entwined in that space. And I think you're right. There's definitely an aspect to sort of these really big things where it just kind of gets extended and extended and extended and extended. And I suppose one end of that scale might be something like Litera, which has sort of grown external acquisition, buying all these different products. And then you have other challenges like how do we integrate? How do we make sure these things talk to each other nicely? And it's a really interesting time to see
how do we educate the customers about what we offer.
So I know that you share this with me, Justin. I know that you share this with me, like a certain amount of frustration and a deep desire to educate people to make sure that they do things sensibly. Because sometimes AI is the answer, but there's, in the same way that sometimes CLM is the answer. But the last 5 years of doing like 80% of my time in CLM projects, my first point of call was always the IT team, and it was always, have you got SharePoint? Are all of your employees on the same SharePoint tenant? And do you have the bandwidth to set up this workflow, that workflow in whether it's Power Automate or something a little more sophisticated elsewhere. But like a configuration of an existing tool is several orders of magnitude more simple than the acquisition and integration of new tool. And there are people who are, and obviously we're delivering incredible value. I'm in my third on-site deployment of Leya at law firms in Paris today. Like I've had 3 back-to-backs today. I'm still in their meeting room. We're delivering value to customers, and people are talking about us, and it's helping them. But there's also definitely a part of the market which is talking about AI because it's a fascinating technology, but they haven't done the hard work of assessing whether it's actually necessary for their organization. And that's the gap that people fall into, right? And I know this is where you are as well, Justin. This is
discussing the problem first and then finding the solution. You don't go straight to the solution and then look for problems,
however shiny the solution might be.
Yeah. I don't just sell you a hammer and say, look, you can go hammer all the stuff. And you
Yeah,
get it, and you're like, what am I supposed to do with this? Oh,
yeah,
you can do
yeah.
everything. Okay, I can do everything. What exactly?
Yeah, you might be able to open a bottle of beer with a claw hammer, but it's you've got a good chance, or I would have a good chance of opening up my hand rather than the bottle, right? I mean, there's a lot of people out there who will, and it's normal, it's natural, it's what people are paid to do, it's to sell a
Mhm.
solution, it's what the solution wants to do, is to get customers, and there's nothing more natural than that. And it is cool to get your hands on cool stuff, right? It's cool to get cool stuff and cool toys and do all this exciting stuff, and I love shiny toys as much as the next guy. Um, but there has to be, I think, um, a really big drive in law firms and in-house legal teams of any nature, in any situation, um, to really think about what is it, what is the underlying thing that I'm trying to achieve. And there are various, you can the 5 whys, the Gemba walk. There's loads of techniques to try and get to the underlying, right? To try and understand what is actually going on here. Um, and that can be simple, that can be complex. Uh, Typically for lawyers, pretty complex. You need to sort of get to your second, third, fourth, fifth order impacts before you start to get to what I would call the actual reason. So it might be something like, why are you doing it like this? Oh, because of this document is on this space and so on. And you sort of trace it back, but why that, why that, why that, why that, why that?
Mhm.
And you sort of trace it back and try and get to this root cause analysis. And it turns out that, I don't know, two of the partners hate each other's guts, and so the teams are segregated, and like and to get to that underlying thing, once you've stripped out politics or geopolitics, whatever it is, the underlying things you can't control. Once you get to the idea of like, what are we actually doing as a firm, what are we doing as a firm to bring value to our clients?
Mhm.
And it's not something that historically lawyers have been very good at. Historically, lawyers have been very good at maximizing the value that they achieve from their clients, um, by looking at themselves, not their clients. So every other industry in the world, people making cars, they say, what technology do I have that will enable me to produce an automobile, and at what price can I sell that automobile? What will it look like? Do I think I've got product market fit? I'm going to build something for people. Will they buy it? Like that's how they start. People look at the market and they say, what do people want? Can I build something? Let's go and build it. Lawyers look at themselves, not their market. They don't look at the customers and say, how can I add value to you, dear customer, in your daily life as a business person? They say, I have 2,000 hours to sell this year. How much money do I want to make? How do I chop that up? That's historically, that's been the slightly caricatural and unhealthy dynamic, the billable hour, which has encouraged, which, let's not forget, that kind of arrived in the 70s. And it wasn't really a thing before that. It sort of arrived in the
Mm.
last sort of 50 years. Um,
So it's
Before
not
that, we did.
ancient. Okay.
It's certainly not as old as the profession.
Mm.
Lawyers are famous for being the second oldest profession, of course, but the the impact of looking at yourself instead of your customers is enormous. Uh, and there are still, I think, too many firms with that attitude. None of the ones that I work with, I hasten to add, they have these crazy billing fee structures that I've never seen. Like when I was in practice, I just had a timesheet and I had my head down, and that was it. There was a budget, and I did enough hours to make sure I got my bonus. I did enough hours to make sure the partner hit the budget, and that was the end of the business model, the start and end of the business model. There was no, fixed fee. There was no percentage recovery and clawback and all this kind of. There was it, and I'm seeing more and more now in the market this kind of value-based pricing. So people are starting to get it and are
Mhm.
starting to address this issue. And I
So
think AI is just going to accelerate the trend.
is that the future of legal work that you see? That there will be more value-based pricing? Because I think we need to get to the point where we're not valuing time, but we're able to actually evaluate the value of the product that's being given,
Mm.
to where you could
I'm
even give a budget before and then there's like a fixed fee.
Yeah. I am. So there are several thinkers who've been very influential on my own thinking, and one of them is Nassim Nicholas Taleb, who wrote The Black Swan.
Mhm.
And he describes the part part of what he describes as the Lindy effect, which is that the longer something's been around, the more its life expectancy increases. Not humans, obviously, sadly, or not sadly, but ideas, concepts, companies. The longer they've been around, the longer they are more likely to be around. And a good rule of thumb is lifespan so far, good indicator of life expectancy. And it's that kind of relationship. The longer you've been around, the longer you'll last. I think I would be a very, very foolish man to bet against the entire equity structure of all law firms everywhere. And they are clearly concerned about the billable hour. And the dynamic is this: you were beasted as a junior, you went through this horrible hazing period where you build 2,000 hours a year to get your bonus, you become a senior lawyer and you start to jockey for position to make partner, you build a business plan, you go out and do biz dev, you damn nearly kill yourself with work, quite frankly. You become wealthier and wealthier, and you get to the stage in your life where you make partner. And depending on the firm you're in, profits per equity partner can be anywhere from low hundreds of thousands to the multiple millions. And if you're a rainmaker, there might be guaranteed this, guaranteed that, bonuses, distributions, drawdowns, whatever it is. There's suddenly a huge funnel of money pouring into. It's your turn with the bucket, and you're underneath the money tap. The dynamic to want to not touch anything, like don't touch anything. It's finally my turn, and I'm filling up my bucket. That dynamic is an incredibly psychologically powerful one, and it takes very courageous law firm partners to look at something that is working, because the law firm metric is profits per equity partner. There are other metrics, utilization, collection, whatever it is. There are other metrics, but the bottom line one that people tend to consider as the ultimate law firm metric is profit per equity partner. Profit per lawyer. How much money are these people making for this, and how much money am I taking home? And that is a very difficult thing to walk away from. It's the innovator's dilemma, isn't it? How do I look at my success in this market and just go cannibalize myself?
So that's the big threat here.
And this is it. How do you make sure that the value capture, because there's a value capture movement with any technology. Google Translate. There used to be an army of translators who were translating websites. You want to buy something from Russia, you don't speak Russian, guess what? You've got to pay somebody to read the website. And you better not hope it changes between the time they translate it and the time you click on buy with your credit card. You've got to translate everything manually. And so what happened? Google did Google Translate. All of the value that was generated by all of those translators was captured by Google. It wasn't captured directly. They weren't invoicing people in the same way as those translators were. But that money stayed in the economy elsewhere. Google used that, the revenues it generated elsewhere to sort of cover its losses on Google Translate, because it had to make an investment on Google Translate, didn't make any money from it initially. And then it started selling API access and all this kind of thing. And all of that money sort of flowed towards the people who captured the benefit of the technology. Law firm partners face a threat, a potential technological threat.
And it only takes one of them to actually do it. And then they get rid of everybody else as the competition. But if none of them do it, then their market is fine.
So what I think is not that none of them will do it. I think that because this is my third office today, all of them are doing it. What I think will happen is that the future is more of the same. I'm not a futurist. I'm not going to pretend to be Suskind or Nostradamus. The future is more of the same. And this is another piece of thinking that comes out of Taleb's writings. It's far more likely to be like it is today than it is to be radically different. Obviously, there are, World War II changed the world, and various things in society changed. But it's far more likely on sort of even a macro industrial, industry-wide business issue. It's far more likely that the future of the legal market resembles what it is today than it is to be totally upended, simply because of the inertia. These incredibly intelligent, powerful, competent businessmen and women who are running incredibly sophisticated organizations filled with the most brilliant minds of their generation, who are being paid an absolute fortune to do incredibly complicated things. They will not go quietly. They will not go down without a fight. And so my own prediction, for what it's worth, is that yes, we will see an uptick in the percentage of value-based pricing, but there'll be more billable hour.
There's also the Jevons paradox, that as the price of a resource goes down, it actually increases the use of the actual resource, the consumption.
Yeah, so the unit cost of a resource dropping is almost always followed by
So
total consumption
legal
increasing.
services will just expand incredibly because
Exactly.
there are so many people that are not being served by the legal industry right now.
Exactly, and it's been the same. So the Jevons paradox is held true for coal, oil, whale oil in the 1800s, like lamplights with whale, like all of it has followed this path, and there's no sign that lawyer hours is going to follow any other path at all. It really is a question of consumption. And if you look at medtech, for example, medtech is slightly more mature. We're talking about technology that's been used in an incredible way for a very long time. We're not talking about you and I, frankly, Justin. Middle-aged white men with beautiful hair. We're talking. We're talking about. We're talking about people who are unserved. And who are the unserved people by a doctor? Well, it's the lady in Rwanda who unfortunately lives a 3-day walk from a village and needs to know if this rash on her kid's foot is going to cause something fatal, or if it's something that can be treated fairly easily.
Mhm.
Like, those are the people whom telemedicine will really help. Like, if you or I could choose between going to see a doctor, a specialist, physically, one-to-one, and consulting an app, we'll go and see we've got the resources to do it. We'll go and see the person. Of course we will. We'll have that relationship, and we will continue in the same way as we did before.
I see a bifurcation of the legal industry. There will be people who this automation kind of run of the mill, the average is good enough for them, so they'll go with
Yep.
the lower cost. Kind of like how the factory line changed the automobile industry. Like a car used to be this handcrafted, beautiful thing, and then it became like you're going to get the exact same car as everybody else. Do you want it to
Any
be
color
black?
as long as it's black. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Exactly.
it didn't get we didn't lose the handcrafted cars. We just call them Lamborghini, and you have that available. And yet most people say, yeah, the factory car, it's good enough for me. So I see the
Exactly.
same thing with the legal industry.
So
Most
there's a couple
people
of
will be
things.
served
Yeah.
by automation, and then others will want that handcrafted experience.
Absolutely. So there's a big pyramid of we call it the pyramid of added value, right? So there's a big base of tasks which have low added value, and the more you go up the pyramid of like increased added value, the volume of tasks decreases. So you get to a point. And at the moment, what's happening is that AI is sort of scoffing the bottom rung. Quite frankly, automation, like things like automating templates and building things sensibly in SharePoint, putting in place a nomenclature policy, putting in place a playbook, that kind of bottom level task should be done by something other
Even
than
before technology,
AI.
it's paralegals
Yeah.
and boilerplate.
Yeah, it's process, it's organization, it's structure, it's that kind of thing is now being eaten by AI and other things. And as the skill level of AI sort of improves, AI will gradually move up that pyramid. It's now got to the stage that I can, preparation of cross-examination. That was something that I did on a regular basis. I've tested the platform on some of my old witness statements, on some of my old cross-examinations. I've cross-examined 5-star admirals in defense disputes. And I took my notes from that dispute and I practiced and I trained and I trained myself, and I was like, what questions? And it found brilliant questions that I never thought. So we're definitely moving up this value added pyramid, and lawyers are, fortunately for lawyers, very well placed to get the most out of AI, because AI is about, at the moment, writing things carefully. To get the best possible performance out of a tool, you have to give it data, you have to give it knowledge. If you take a regular, garden variety LLM foundational model, it's an incredible thing. ChatGPT 4 0, like, it blows my mind every time. I took a photo of a whiteboard last week, and it read my handwriting, which is a feat of brilliance that I've never imagined. It can do all these incredible things, and the knowledge is not there yet. But if you give it your knowledge, if you give it your writing, if you give it your context, and then ask it to improve and ask it to go a little further, that's when you start to get an output that looks like yours. That's when you start to get things that are really moving the needle. And the analysis point is just getting better and better.
I think that's where my work comes in. I approach clients and I encourage them to get their data in order so that they can feed it, because AI needs massive amounts of data, but it also has to be organized data. You can't just throw garbage at it. It has to
Yeah,
be
it's still
organized
garbage
nicely.
in, garbage out. Otherwise, it's just sophisticated garbage out. And this is the thing. So Alex Smith, who's a I manage, he says information architecture before artificial intelligence, IA before AI, which is problematic for me because in France it's just IA. They say it the other way around. So I'm in trouble. But he's right. I mean, you're right. That's exactly what you should be doing. You should be structuring your data and thinking about it in terms of hierarchy, nomenclature.
Because
Have I got a
otherwise you're a
contract?
slave to the AI product, which it's not going to be tailored to what you need. It's going to give you an average of the industry when you don't want
Yeah.
average.
No, you want something that works for you. You want something that reflects your quality of work product, your style, your approach. People go to, Quinn Emanuel for litigation for a reason because they work like this, they behave like this, they write like this, they have this attitude, and they win basically. And that kind of those aspects of legal work um, are difficult to bake into a SaaS product. And so the approach Leya has, of course, is to provide lawyer inputs, not lawyer outputs. And so you have vast quantities of data which we can assimilate and understand and extract all of this information from unstructured data and provide order from chaos. But it's always to drive the lawyer themselves forward. It's not this is a product that we're going to that you can sell to your clients. It's not that. It's something that will allow you as a lawyer to do better work. And what that means is different for every lawyer, of course. It's sometimes different for each lawyer between each client, sometimes different between each lawyer, same client, different file. Success means a variety of things to a variety of people.
Mhm.
But
I
that's
like that.
that's why we're proud to be a platform and we're proud to serve
Hmm.
a bunch of different styles, a bunch of different needs, and hopefully get people what they need. I mean,
Hmm. So do you find
that's what we're
yourself
looking to
having to
do.
then educate your clients that you're not just a
Um,
one size fits all, but you're like, we need to figure out what you need so that
yeah,
you
so
can,
there's
your success is going to look different.
so everybody gets it when they see the platform. Like, so we showed them a demo of 1,000 pages of loan agreements being chewed through in 30 seconds, and we've got 15 data points, change of control clauses, extraction, tagging, flagging, all this stuff that drops into a magic grid. Um, People get it when they see that. They're like, oh wow, that's powerful. So they totally get it. But then the next step is to go from that to something very concrete. Like, actually, no, hang on, stop. What are you doing? Which team are you in? What do you want to do? What do you want to achieve for this client? Why is the client giving you money to do this task? What is the client buying from you? Are they buying reassurance? Are they buying your insurance cover on a decision? Are they buying your time? Have they come to consult you just to stop you representing the competition? That happens. Um, what is the underlying need here? And if we identify a proper use case that's tractable to AI, we'll build it for them. We'll build it for them, deploy it to send them the template so they can deploy it to their instance because we can't see what they're doing, and we try and help them build the tools together that they need to meet their goals.
Okay. All right. Well, it's been a great conversation. I see we have less than a minute left. We both have to go, unfortunately. But I've really enjoyed this time with you. Do you have any closing remarks, or you want to point people to Leia's website or anything?
It's Leya Law. You can find us online. You can find me on LinkedIn. But nothing other than that. Thank you very much for having me, and
My pleasure.
carry on being awesome to everybody. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Cheers.
Take care. Speak soon.
Bye.